here's the secret. Without New Hampshire, North Carolina, Florida, and Nevada, Trump cannot win tonight. He has to win all 4 of those, which would give him 272 electoral votes. Losing any of those states, and he loses the election.
Wow. Okay, so those are the ones to watch. But then there's also the wild card of, let's say he wins Pennsylvania.
I don't believe it. I don't see it.
You don't see it?
No, I've been through the state. I've done a lot of work in Michigan, and I think it'll be close. But these states, it's like magic for the GOP. They look like they have potential, and then on election day, they disappear.
Huh.
So you don't have the turnouts. You don't have enough of this wave to help Trump actually capture either of those. I don't think there's going to be a wild card here. I think it's these 4 states.
And what about some of those Dem states for so long that now are talking about being contested, like Michigan?
I don't believe it. I don't. There's nothing I see.
You're not buying it.
No, look, we go through this every election cycle where we think that so many states are going to be in play.
What's your read on this night, and what are the states that Frank Luntz is looking at very closely?
So my read is that the turnout is significant, and the one thing that I could not predict until the last 2 or 3 days. I wasn't sure if the negativity and the voters' real disdain for both candidates would yield a high turnout or low turnout. It's pretty clear that people are coming out to vote all across the country, at least in these battleground states. And I've got it down to 5 states. Florida, which at this point leans narrowly to Hillary Clinton. I'm watching the exit polling right now, and it's pretty significant in Latino communities. I mean the exit polling, the early voting. That the Latino vote in Florida and Nevada is not only significant, but it is historic, and it is leaning strongly towards Hillary Clinton. Second state is North Carolina, as you mentioned. Much too early to call, much too tight a race. I think the winner ends up with maybe a % difference. New Hampshire, that you also were addressing, once again, it was a state that Hillary Clinton had a lead up until 3 or 4 days ago. Trump was moving and closing and closing. At this point, it leads narrowly towards the Democrats, but way too close to call. I'm also watching Nevada, that I just talked about.
And finally, Michigan. If there's one state that will be a surprise for Donald Trump, I think it's Michigan.
And what about some of those Dem states for so long that now are talking about being contested, like Michigan?
I don't believe it. I don't. There's nothing I see.
You're not buying it.
No, look, we go through this every election cycle where we think that so many states are going to be in play.
But if you're right, gaining Michigan wouldn't make up for potentially losing Florida.
You're correct, and if you do the math, I still see this as a narrow victory for Hillary Clinton. I don't see any other way to do the math, but I also say to viewers, because we have to be careful, no projections. There are 5 states that are still in play, and either candidate could still win tonight.
So happy to see you. Tell us what you're hearing and what you can tell us at this point.
So the first thing is that I actually don't believe it's over. Because, yes, the election is over, but the ramifications of it, what has happened over the last 18 months, are so significant. That people are lining up for an hour or more all across these swing states, and that makes this a competitive race. And when that's the election, Hillary Clinton had the advantage, and as we will see through the night, that's how voters voted.
Was distancing himself from those voters. I was going to say, he not only didn't reach out, I mean, he alienated them, Frank.
I went to 2 different rallies, right? And I really want to clarify. Donald Trump would come in and say there's 7,000 people waiting outside who can't get in. That's a lie. There weren't 7,000 people. There was nobody waiting to get out. The whole place wasn't packed. I'm taking photographs of all these empty seats, all this empty space. So he's just making things up from the podium, and everyone saw this. He's picking fights with the media. He's deliberately trying to antagonize people. And you know what? It worked for that small slice of the electorate that was loud and hot and intense. But it turned off other people. And I'm going to surprise you. One data I'm going to give you. The percent who strongly supported their candidate tonight, 47% of Clinton voters strongly supported Clinton. Only 39% of Trump voters strongly supported Trump. Her support was actually more intense than his.
This number hasn't really moved, right, Frank, over the last year?
And it actually, well, based on this, it actually got... It's looking like Trump's going to do worse tonight than what the poll showed. So instead of this hidden Trump vote that everyone talks about, the shy Trump voter, I don't see it.
There is still a hidden Trump vote. People who refuse to tell pollsters who they voted for will not acknowledge it. And I think they're going to come out of the woodwork tonight. Virtually every state was wrong. That they predicted either the wrong winner or they were off by 4 or 5. In Ohio, it was almost 10% it was off. Why? Because Donald Trump voters don't even want to participate in polls. They don't want to tell pollsters what they're doing, not because they're afraid, but because they're uncooperative. They're so hostile to the system that they feel like that is giving in. But the issue now is when you are so upset with the way things are going, when you think Washington has betrayed you and Wall Street has betrayed you, then you're not going to cooperate. and you're going to find some other way to express your point of view.
And yes, and this is a vote between, and I'm going to use the most negative language because that's what voters say. It's a vote between the liar and the lunatic. And they have chosen or will choose later tonight the liar.
The Republican Party in general, and Donald Trump in particular, cannot win when you are only getting 25 to 30% of the Hispanic vote.
Right now, a historic moment. We can now project the winner of the presidential race. CNN projects Donald Trump wins the presidency.
The Republican Party in general, and Donald Trump in particular, cannot win when you are only getting 25 to 30% of the Hispanic vote.
Republicans keeping control of both the House and the Senate last night.
And starting tonight on this show, no one will call me a Republican again, because I'm not part of this. I'm not part of that system. I'm not part of that negativity. This is not something I was involved in this year. I will leave it to others to explain and to try to get themselves out of this mess.
Joining me now to talk more about the president, his first 100 days, and what people think about his performance so far is GOP pollster Frank Luntz. All right.
And starting tonight on this show, no one will call me a Republican again.
And Frank Luntz. Frank, what do you think is going on in the Hispanic community, and how large will this turnout be, and how influential is it in this election?
If the white community is angry, the Hispanic community is insulted. They were insulted by the language that Donald Trump used. They were insulted by the tone. And every time he would say that Mexico was going to pay for the wall, and whenever he talked about immigration policy, they felt like he was telling them they weren't welcome. And every time he said that the Hispanics, they love me, they don't. And every time they said that the Hispanics, they love me, they don't.
It's a vote between the liar and the lunatic. And they have chosen or will choose later tonight the liar.